Good evening. My name is Matthew Martin, and this is for Fundamentals of Public Speaking. This is my speech on a famous person. Have you ever seen an out-of-this-world vehicle on a movie or a TV show? You ever thought, who could have such a brilliant mind to create something like that? The famous person that I'm going to speak about today is legendary car designer George Barris. Born in Chicago, Illinois on November 20th, 1925, George Barris had an older brother, Sam, who helped him with customizing cars. In 1944, he moved to Los Angeles, and in 1945, when his brother discharged from the Army, they opened up Barris Brothers Customs in Compton, California. At that time, some of their known works with a 25 Buick and an old Model A had gained them recognition, especially from Peter Peterson. This is the same man who founded Hot Rod magazine. He asked them to come and show one of their customized cars in one of his very first Hot Rod shows, and they were the only custom car there. Now, you start getting into wanting to know who George Barris is. Well, I promise you, you've seen one of his cars. In the film High School Confidential, he supplied almost all the cars used in that film, including a very hot rod 1932 Model A. Now, starting in the 1960s is where he really starts to get his recognition, because he designed and built many TV show cars, including Dragula and the Munsters coach from the show The Munsters, the Beverly Hillbillies truck. He helped design some later versions of Kit from Knight Rider. And he's also done replica cars of the Monkeemobile from the Monkees. But one of his most famous creations is the 1966 Batmobile. The Batmobile is probably his crowning achievement, what gave him his biggest start, or his best status was that car. It was designed from a one-of-a-kind 1955 Lincoln Futura. And at the time, that car itself was called a $250,000 laboratory on wheels, because that's how much it cost Lincoln to build it, or at the time, Ford. The car is 1 inch short from being 19 feet long, and is 7 feet wide. Though the car was originally cost $250,000 for Lincoln to build, they sold it to George Barris for $1. When approached to build the Batmobile by 20th Century Fox, he was told he only had 3 weeks to do it, and he accomplished that goal with 5 other builders. And the car I'm talking about is this one right here. This is the 1966 Batmobile used in the TV show. Another one I want to show you is this was a George Barris inspired Batmobile. This is the 1989 Batmobile used in the Michael Keaton Batman. The reason they call it George Barris inspired, I know you can't see it through the packaging, but if you look up here, is because of the use of red pinstriping. That was one of his signature marks for the Batmobile. Now, something else kind of cool about that car, the rear turbine that shot out the fire, that was made out of a 5-gallon paint bucket. Now, when the Batmobile debuted on October 11th, 1965, the studio considered it so valuable that they insured it for $125,000 in 1965. But guess what? On January 19th, 2013, the hammer fell at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale for a whopping $4.2 million. That is what George Barris let the #1 Batmobile go for to a collector in Arizona. George Barris has also built everything from custom golf carts and cars to many stars, including Bob Hope. He built a gold Rolls Royce for Zsa Zsa Gabor, John Wayne, and Elvis Presley. Of course, we all know those were Cadillacs. George Barris is known as one of the greatest car designers in the world. He was married to Shirley Nanas from 1958 until her death in 2001. George Barris died in his sleep November 5th, 2015 at the age of 89. And he will forever be known as the man who created the original Batmobile. Thank you and good night.